hearts and our hopes. Come sing a song with me, we sang, that I might know your mind. In our Together hymn this month we sing, there are numerous strings in your lute, let me add my own among them, and my heart will be one with your song. We bring our voice, we add our string to the lute, our note to the song, and we come to know each other's mind. Making music, we match our breath, our tone, our rhythm. We create a joining of the heart, a tuning of the spirit. We get in tune. Author Don Campbell, in his book, The Mozart Effect, describes music as, quote, the sounds of earth and sky, of tides and storms. It is the echo of a train in the distance, the pounding reverberations of a carpenter at work. From the first cry of life to the last sigh of death, from the beating of our hearts to the soaring of our imaginations, we are enveloped by sound and vibration every moment of our lives. It is the primal breath of creation itself, the speech of angels and atoms, the stuff of which life and dreams, souls and stars are ultimately fashioned. As I contemplate this month's theme of harmony, I find myself reflecting on how we create the music of our human lives. I think, in terms of attunement, we develop from the outside in, the opposite of what one might think. We are born into families and communities where we learn to connect and harmonize with those around us. In our earliest days, connection and harmony are central to our human survival. And then over time, we grow our way into our own unique song, aligning with our own identity and purpose so that we are in tune with the melody that originates deep within us, in tune with the harmonies of the universe. Author and mystic Manly Palmer Hall, in his 1928 work, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, reflects, harmony is a state recognized by great philosophers as the immediate prerequisite of beauty. A compound is termed beautiful only when its parts are in harmonious combination. The world is called beautiful and its creator is designated the good, because good perforce must act in conformity with its own nature, and good acting according to its own nature is harmony, because the good which it accomplishes is harmonious with the good which it is. Beauty, therefore, is harmony manifesting its own intrinsic nature in the world of form, end quote. We begin our lives, of course, in connection. As mammals, we spend the first 40 weeks or so of our existence enclosed within and connected to the body of our biological mother. Placenta and umbilical cord, we begin in connection. The first sounds we hear preparing our auditory system for life in the world are the voice and heartbeat of our mother. At birth, we become a freestanding organism, but we are fragile creatures, and our lives still depend on the connection of relationship for nourishment, for warmth, for protection. One of the crucial tasks of infancy is learning to connect and communicate from one organism to another, from an awareness of our own needs to the resources and needs of another, to the first steps in human relationship. We attune ourselves to those around us, learning how best to elicit from them the responses we need, using sound and movement, stimulus and response to create those first fundamental relationships. As we grow, individual to family to community, we learn new ways of connecting, of living and working and creating the unique music of relationship. There is so much relationship in music. I remember the first times I experienced the connection of singing with others in church and in school, eventually in choruses and choirs. One of our UUCP choir members recently commented that the experience of singing in a choir defies description. That unique connection of finding our way into the notes and the rhythm, matching breath and tone, as melody and harmony interconnect, the making of music creates a deep magic, bonds that go beyond the surface, tuning heart and spirit to a blended cascade of sound that lifts and energizes both singer and listener. Harmony has a power of its own. We discover the notes, our own and those of others. We experiment with tunes and rhythms, learning to become part of the larger songs around us as we grow through childhood into adulthood. Our human lives take shape within natural networks and intentional communities, and beginning in childhood, we learn the implicit rules of social life, even as we develop and live into explicit agreements for how we will be together in community. One of the things I love best about our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition is that we are connected, woven into community by intentionally crafted agreements for how we will be together. That's what's meant when we say that ours is a covenantal faith. Our religious community is based in democratic principles that honor each individual for who they are, for their own song, for the gifts they bring to our community life. We are called to be intentional as we join the notes of our separate strings into the larger instrument of congregational life. This congregation has created and affirmed a statement of covenant, an agreement for how we will live together in community. This past spring, we spent some times in services talking about that covenant and reading it together. It's an agreement for how we will tune each other, tune ourselves and tune to each other, to create a song that weaves the melodies and harmonies of our lives together. So I invite you to read with me that covenant. It's printed on page 4 of your order of service. The pages are numbered at the bottom. It's the UUCP covenant of commitment to our congregation, and let us read this thoughtfully, attending to the messages which are about all the individual lute strings on which we play, the melody and the rhythm, resolving dissonance into harmony, building the waveform of our music together. I am committed to the role our congregation plays in my religious exploration and respect the shared ministry of each congregant, staff member, and minister. Therefore, I acknowledge and accept the role as a community member, approaching each encounter with curiosity, generosity, and patience with the process. I honor differences as opportunities to learn. I listen to what others say. I do my best to communicate directly and with humility. I understand disagreement and conflict as an opportunity for growth. Therefore, I state my views with kindness directly to those involved. I say of another only what I would say to them. I am open to be changed by others. I practice both patience and fortitude. I remember to show gratitude to others for their contributions. I affirm our flourishing religious community. Therefore, I am generous with my talents, efforts, and gifts. I support those who take leader positions. I accept leadership when called and guide with love, warmth, and humor. I encourage development within our congregation, individually and collectively. Thus do I covenant. This is an agreement we make together, accepting the part that each of us sings, exercising patience, honoring all the other tunes and tones, those of all ways of being, those of all ages, listening and communicating in mutuality. A covenant is the way we appreciate and resolve dissonance, the way we create harmony in the life of a community that is intentionally diverse, inclusive, and centered on justice. As we grow, as we learn and live in the world, in our maturity, we come finally into the time to create our own true alignment, to find our own unique tune and tone, our own melody and harmony. The desire to live lives of authenticity, to live in alignment with our deepest values and commitments, calls us to sing the unique song that comes from our own heart and mind, the living melody that resonates with the urging of our spirits. Even as our early learning is about connecting and adapting to live within systems of family and community, about living in covenantal relationship, the deep learning of our maturity is to become and to be who we most truly are. For so much of our lives, as we learn to live in community, we listen to the messages from those around us, comparing ourselves to others, so often finding ourselves falling short in obvious or subtle ways. How could anyone ever tell you that you are anything less than beautiful, anything less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice the beauty of your being, the gifts of love you bring to the world? Life and society seems to require that we continually calibrate and adjust how we fit in, attending to whether we will be accepted, whether our gifts will be seen and acknowledged, checking and sometimes shifting our song to assure that we're in tune with those around us. And then we finally reach a life stage, a time of maturity, when authenticity takes first place and our priorities and our own song moves into the center. Author Mary Pfeiffer, in her recent book, Women Rowing North, teaches that, quote, authentic lives result from a deepening process that requires us to listen to our bodies, our hearts, and our minds. The great gift of our later life stage is authenticity. We've reached a point in our journey where, at least for a moment, we can put down our canoe paddles and look around us. We lose our fears and discover within ourselves a deep well of strength. We can appreciate everything we see. We can be grateful for our own minds, hearts, and bodies. In our maturity, we have learned how to enjoy ordinary days and to expect a reasonable number of mistakes, upset feelings, and setbacks. We understand that all of us are wounded and flawed, but that we are also beautiful and worthy of love. With acceptance comes the possibility of self-forgiveness. Our lesson is that it's okay to be the flawed, messed up, contradictory, and marvelous people that we all truly are. End quote. I rejoice when I'm with the people who have moved into their authenticity, those precious beings who accept that they live with challenges of mind, body, and spirit, those who are open about the struggles of living as a human on this earth, creating for us all a model of how to be in tune with ourselves. How can anyone move toward that state of authenticity, of being in tune with our own truest being and becoming? We begin, I think, by allowing ourselves to know that we are just fine, just the way we are. We may not be perfect by some measure of society, but we are beautiful and whole in all the ways we are. We have learned in our maturity to adjust our expectations so that a reasonable number of mistakes is perfectly all right, knowing that reasonable is a perfectly subjective and flexible measure. And we approach ourselves and each other in all our amazing variety with curiosity, with generosity, patience, and fortitude. We are open to change, knowing that the nature of being is becoming, and that the flow of life carries us into something new in every moment, if we will be open to discovery. I wish for us all that we find ourselves carried gently in that flow of song, and that as we are in tune with our own inner chord, our note finds its place in the larger harmonies around us. As we are authentic, as we are gentle with ourselves, so we will continue to become ever more attuned to each other and to the music of the universe of which we are a part. Let us rise now in body.